Good evening. Today is Thursday, April 18th, 2019. It is 7:06 p.m. This is the monthly meeting of the Beech Grove Redevelopment Commission. In lieu of roll call, I'd ask our members starting to my far right to introduce themselves.
Paul Kaiser, I'm a non-voting member appointed by the Board of Education.
Tara Wolf.
Kathy Chappell, Secretary.
Ron Moat, Vice President.
Ed Bell.
And I'm Donald Webb, the president. First, we will start off with approval of the minutes from the March 21st meeting. I'd ask if there are any additions, corrections, or comments. And if there are not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes as submitted by Kathy.
After reviewing, I see no need for any correction, so I'd make a motion. Yes.
Ed made a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are passed. I know we have bills, but I do not see an invoice for any bills. So we didn't get our invoice from the clerk tonight, so we won't have any bills to vote on paying. I know it's gonna disappoint Kevin and them, but I don't remember the exact amount, but what was it, like 9,000?
Yeah, I think it was 9,300 or something like that.
Because he did send it last week, so for them,
15th, yeah.
for them, I would ask, can we do a voice vote to have Dan, since he didn't get it, approve their payment? Anybody have any objections to that?
Bob, your perspective on that?
You could say approve that bill in an amount not to exceed.
Okay, well then, I'd ask her to approve the bill not exceed $9,500 for Kevin Parsons and Associates, and then Tim Schowalter not to exceed $300, because I know we owe him too. He's a small businessman, he deserves his money as soon as he can get it, so I'd ask for those two to be approved, or so I can let Dan know to go ahead and pay those. Anybody?
I'll make said motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so those two we'll make, I'll email Dan tomorrow since we didn't have it tonight, and I apologize for that.
Should we send him copies also, and/or?
As soon as I get your copy, Kevin, I forward it right to them.
Okay, should we send it to you before the 15th? Is that the problem?
No, you sent it the week before the meeting. Dan's really good about having it up here. I don't know what slipped through the cracks. I mean, it's Easter,
fine.
it's Holy Week coming through, so maybe something came up with that.
City Hall's not open tomorrow.
Yeah, and City Hall's not, that's right, so
That's
I'll
fine.
email him,
Make
but he
sure
probably
we
won't get it
weren't
till
wrong.
next week.
We weren't messing up, I want to make sure.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah, CC him, I would in the future, Kevin, that'd probably be a good idea. Do we want to do the signage first, or do we want to do the website first?
I don't care.
Well,
Does not
Do
matter.
Angel.
we'll do Angel first, because I think the signage one may be a little more discussion.
Angel, I passed out the information you gave to me, but they haven't really had time to look at it.
Yeah, that's fine. I have some tabs here that I'd like to go through, if that's okay, just if you could just.
Okay.
So a couple months ago, I came and asked if you would be interested in listening to a proposal from a website company called Civic Plus. The reason why I'd like to present this to you is I feel like the city has an issue with the image that we have throughout Indianapolis, the South Side, that sort of thing. And I think it weighs heavily on the people that come into our city, people that want to live here, especially the younger people that live here. So the website that we currently have does not really represent, I think, who we are, who we want to be very well. And this company represents cities all over the country. So in the proposal, it talks about the all the different things that they have. Now, this project started with us as a Parks Department looking for a program that we can use that would help us to generate more revenue for the parks. So we need something online, something that people can register for programs with, something that is easily accessible, and that we can share information with the public much easier than how we're doing it now. The current website is not efficient at all for that. It's very difficult to share information with people that way. So that's how this project started. If you turn to page 2, I guess it is, about 4 pages in, but it's still page 2. This just talks a little bit about the company, so you have an idea, the years of experience they have, how many people they have. They also have one of the highest rated safest programs out there. They have some story to tell that has to do with the city of Ferguson and how they were not hacked when other websites were, and it actually sounded pretty impressive when we heard it. But they're very big on security because who they work with primarily are cities and governments. On page 7, this just talks about a summary of the different programs that they have, the different ways that we could utilize the program, and how, and I think it's actually 7 and 8. Just a real simple way of telling all the things that they can do for us. They have a lot of tools that we could use. For example, the city, so minutes for this meeting, for example, can be put online instantly and also downloaded to any citizen who would like to see that. So they can get on the website, they can even sign up for things to automatically be sent to them via email. So it's a very good product that can engage our community a lot easier than what we do now. Yes, sir.
Have citizens approached you for minutes?
Yes. No, citizens approached me.
I haven't heard anyone in my tenure with the RDC say, why can't I get the minutes off a website, or I'd like to see the
Well,
minutes.
I've been recently asked for minutes from a citizen's request that's come through the clerk's office.
Okay.
And I think we have been asked before for park board minutes, but not very often, not in the 4 years that I've been here.
Okay.
And I'm a citizen here also, and I've lived here 21 years, and I've never asked for them myself, but in the past 4 years, I haven't had that. But it just seemed like a very easy tool for people to work with. Page 10, again, this talks about the modules and tools. You can put a calendar on the website. You can do all kinds of things. For the Parks Department in particular, like I said, it's a really good way to set up programs so people can go, if they want to sign up for the fitness center, they can get their membership there. If they want to sign up for a class, they can do that. If they want to sign up for one of our park programs that we offer throughout the year, be it Safe Sitter or any of our other programs we have, they can do that easily through the pay credit card. Right now, as it is, we have a lot of paper. It's very time consuming and labor intensive to do the paper process that we have to do in order to get the money through every day. And with that, this organization works with the State Board of Accounts, so they're already set up with the Indiana State Board of Accounts to handle funds, and they deposit them as they wish every day if we want to do that, which is what the State Board of Accounts wants. So that list has a few things that you could look at that they offer. And these are all modules and tools that are included in the program. They're not necessarily things that we would always take advantage of, but they are things that we could use. And it just makes the site more interactive with the public. On page 13 is the credit card processing. So they would handle all credit card processing. We would not have to go and seek an outside vendor for that. Their fee is 3%, which is something we could pass along to the public or we could absorb ourselves. But that 3% is that's a very good rate for a credit card processing. And they, like I said, they handle all of that, and we could do that throughout the city. So obviously, any department can take payments, like the police department, fire department, whatever they take payments for, all of that can be done through this website. Page 15. And this is one thing I didn't know, which I found very interesting. Websites are required to be ADA compliant now, especially government websites. And in some states, it's a big deal. Some cities are getting sued for their lack of ADA compliance on their websites. Our current website has 61 ADA errors on it. So if for some reason someone wanted to sue the city because they cannot read the font or because it's not read to them, or because they're struggling to find information from their city government, they can do that. So this is something that I felt was really important, and this is something that they feel strongly about, and making sure it's ADA compliant to protect us. On page 16, this goes through a little timeline of how long it takes to build this website. It can take anywhere from 6 to 8 months to do this. So it's quite intensive, and they take information that we give them. Some of it can be from our website or not, but they don't copy and paste anything at all. They create everything from new. So it does take some time, and there's a whole team of people that work on that side of it, that work with us to make sure that we have everything we want on our site. Page 20. This is the hosting and security. So this talks about what they'll do for us for security issues, and how they will monitor things, and what they offer in that regard. And I feel like, and all of these tabs I feel like are pretty important to know in having a website. Page 22. This is the program that the Parks Board is seeking, regardless of if we, as well as an RDC or as a city, seek a new website in total. This is Civic Rec, and this is a program that some cities use on their own without having the entire Civic Plus website. And this is the part that we need as a Parks Department to generate more revenue and to become more, not as much government dependent. Because right now we have a lot of program money that comes in that we use for programs, and having the non-reverting fund we have and having this sort of program or this sort of website to use can allow us to generate our own revenue, so we're not so dependent on taxpayer money. So this is something that we're working on now currently. And then page 27, this is the implementation role. So as a city, we would have to come up with some people to work on this project. Obviously, it wouldn't be a full-time job. It would just be people to, like if we need to change pictures or update information, update calendars, things like that. They recommend about 6 to 8 people to do that. And again, it wouldn't have to be something that's a salaried job. It could be maybe part of someone else's job that's already working for the city, or a group of volunteers or something like that. But we would want to come up with a group of people who would take on that role. Civic Plus would train them completely on how to do that. And plus, we would also have Civic Plus support on the back end whenever we would need that. And then page 29 and 30, this is the investment of the product. This first page on page 29, actually, if you go to page 30, you'll see the real number. So the first year investment is $29,722, and that involves building the entire website from bottom to top, training all of us, all of the technical support we need, everything that you can possibly think of that might need to go into building a website, and that's the year one investment. And then year two and every year after for maintenance and all of the other things that the website provides, it's $9,000 a year. On page 29, they've split that up for us into 3 payments and a little bit more on the 4th year. And then every year after the 4th year, it would be $9,000. Just to make it a little easier to swallow for the payments, because they know that cities have tight budgets sometimes. So this is the pricing for this. My personal feeling on this, with the financial reason, this is why I'm here. As someone who works for the city and knows on this side of it how tight the budget is. And I understand that going to the city, going to the council and asking for more money is pretty much, at least in my experience, an impossibility. So I feel like this would be very challenging. This is a little more taxing on the government and our city, as I feel like it needs to be. I feel like as an RDC, you are very involved with the image of our city, making things better, bringing people in. I know with the signage, that's your whole idea, is to make Beech Grove someplace people want to be, or at least do your part to do that. So I thought this might be better suited for what you're looking for to do for the city. And I also feel like this amount wouldn't be as much of a burden to you as it would be to a budget year after year, a city budget year after year. I mean, I know our budget is pretty well spent and we're not bringing much revenue in addition to that. So that is my feeling on that. This is my proposal. Does anyone have any questions about it?
Yes. So you would like the RDC to fund this completely without any assistance from Beech Grove City Council, is that right?
I would like the RDC to fund it initially. The year one, or the 3 years, however you'd want it to be broken out. I feel like that's something that I would like the RDC to fund. After that, it's $9,000 a year. I think that's an easier amount to swallow, and an easier amount to ask the council for if we want to do that. As a taxpayer, I think that I'd rather not pay that, because we don't pay it now. So if the RDC could take that on for an extended period of time, I think that would be better, but I know that the RDC ends at some point, so I don't think that's a very viable solution. I just think that smaller $9,000 a year could be easier to pay.
I'd like to direct a question to Bob. You're familiar with our charter, what falls within the lines and what's outside the foul lines, specifically TIF districts, okay? I would be very interested in your perspective on this in terms of how it falls within our charter and our responsibilities, especially with respect to the TIF district.
I guess an argument would have to be made if the expenditure were going to be made that by purchasing this service or work, that it supported our consolidated TIF district in terms of the sort of things you're trying to accomplish in terms of elimination of light and redevelopment. This may be more of a stretch than some of the other projects that you've recently funded.
That's my concern.
Certainly, on the ongoing basis, I would say no. It may be somewhat of a gray area on whether you could do the initial project. I think it may be a stretch.
That was my gut feeling, Bob.
The statutes are not very specific.
Okay.
They're pretty vague, but some fairly innocent things have been held that you can't do it, such as you can't maintain, what was a park, what did the city of Munster, it was a park. Park improvements that were initially done, and that was okay, but they said that you could not use RDC funds to maintain.
I thought the whole concept of ongoing was the sticking point here. You could make a one shot at this, but as far as being on the hook
For maintenance.
over time, we're prohibited from that.
Yeah, I'm clear that we wouldn't be able to do it. We would have to see how that particular website, which, is that price, Angel, for the whole city, or is that just for the Parks Department?
That's for the whole city. Now, the Parks Department version of it, if we were to do that alone, their 1 year commitment, the 1 year setup is $20,000. So it's quite a bit, in comparison, it's a much better deal to do the full package, yeah.
I would want to do some further review on the initial, but in terms of the ongoing, I think it's a clear no under
Right.
existing statute.
That makes sense.
And I think there were some attempts to try to loosen that up. 2 or 3 years ago, Court of Appeals decision involving the city of Munster, State Board of Accounts had issued an audit exception to the city of Munster because they had maintained some things that they had originally done to the redevelopment park. The city of Munster challenged the State Board of Account audit exception, which was probably a big mistake. So it went through the court system, and they upheld the State Board of Accounts audit exceptions to the city of Munster. There was some attempts legislatively to loosen that up, but instead, we got legislation this year in House Bill 1596 that would have made it even much more restrictive. We just heard a week ago from, or maybe the first of this week, from Senator Freeman that it was killed.
Right.
It appears to be dead. I know our office reached out, I know Craig Wiley reached out, I know David Mayor reached out. I know AIM, which used to be called Association of Cities and Towns, but now called AIM. I'm not sure why they changed their name, because doing things way outside that scope, particularly county north of here. At a fantastic scale.
Mm-hmm.
That was included in a debate last night, if I'm not mistaken, up in that fair city,
In that fair city, yeah.
between the current mayor and the potential new mayor. That was a big topic.
Well,
And one thing that Angel did say that I would certainly second in terms of handicap accessible, Dr. Kaiser knows this.
Yeah, their website is.
School side, the Office of Civil Rights and the Department of Education has been on schools' backs all over this country. If somebody from, you know, a disabled part of the population complains, and often it's not even a patron or citizen complains, it's somebody that trolls websites that belongs to an association for a particular disability, whether that's blind, hearing impaired, other disabilities. You've got to somehow get a fix, and so schools at least have had to pay vendors a lot of money to try to improve it. You might have some personal experience.
Well, maybe to put this in perspective, the cost associated with this is not unusual. We are redoing our website right now, a company out of Arkansas, for exactly what Bob said. We're having it checked inside, outside, upside down. They're retyping everything. We're proofing it. Melody Stevens is doing this. And so this price and the annual fee is not out of line at all. It's almost exactly what we're paying up front. And again, we're paying it over 3 years. Now, whether or not RDC can pay for it, that's your decision. But
Yeah.
this cost is not out of line for what we're paying to update ours.
I don't necessarily think the issue is cost right now. The issue
I agree.
is, are we within our charter in what we're doing here? And from a longevity standpoint, I think the answer is obvious. No, we cannot do this on an ongoing basis. Then it becomes a matter of, if we're supposed to improve blighted areas in the city of Beech Grove, which, and I tend to sit on the side of conservatism, to me is physical things like streets and sidewalks and things like that, and the St. Francis property and whatnot. I don't want to put a big target on the RDC's back for certain people out there. As you just mentioned, Bob, people that troll websites for stuff like this. We've got some people in this town that are looking over our shoulders constantly in terms of what we're doing and how we're spending money.
Can I ask a question about that, just because I don't know? So with the roads and infrastructure, that sort of thing that you're mentioning, that's what you feel that's what the RDC is supposed
I
to be
think
focused on, right?
that's the
Physical.
backbone
improve the
of
blighted
what we're
area.
here for.
Okay. I may be off, but this is just my perspective. This, having a website anymore, this day and age, would improve a blighted area. It's going to bring in younger people. I mean, all of us in here are, well, I'm not sure about you, but I think most of us are older than a lot of the younger people. I have a 28-year-old daughter, and all she does, that's what she does. It's on her phone. She's in the website. She's looking around for homes right now, and she will not live here, even though she grew up here, because of the image that it has, because of the lower income that we have, because of the poverty that's coming through this area. And I think that one place people look when they're going to find a home, they look for websites. They look online. That's where they're going to go first to see what's there. So I think if you're looking at improving a blighted area, you have to think about that place as well, because people aren't necessarily driving around the city. You know,
It's a
they're
first impression.
they're looking on the website
the first
first.
place
That's
they're
where
gonna
people are going. And I think as a city, we want people to move in here that are younger. We need more kids in our schools. We need
So,
more younger families.
excuse me, what you're
so-
saying is, if I'm a potential buyer in Beech Grove, I'm going to go to the website and make a go, no-go decision as to whether I want to live here
Yes.
based on the image created by our website?
I believe that's going to be a part of it, yes.
If you're 20 years old, you might.
I would agree with her.
It's a real thing, and I
I
know
still
it's
moved
hard.
here, but-
I mean, I'm 48, and I know it's kind of hard to think about that, because I'm going to go drive to a neighborhood. You know, I'm going to go look around. It's not necessarily going to be the first place I look,
I
but
guess where I'm a little concerned is we can make an argument for spending money almost anywhere to improve the image and the quality of life of Beech Grove, okay? And I certainly am not adverse to that, but we're juggling priorities here in terms of where we place our dollars. And as I say, I think our first charter, when you talk of blighted areas, people don't associate blight with websites. They
No.
associate it with vacant lots and trash and rundown neighborhoods and things like that. And it would be nice to be able to give everything to everybody to make Beech Grove the next Carmel, God forbid, of Marion County, okay? I'm just saying, we need to stick to our knitting here, at least essentially, and make sure our backside is covered on what we have a charter to do.
We certainly can do some more analysis on the initial expenditure issue, but in terms of the ongoing, until there's some legislative changes that would call, sort of, authorize what was prohibited by that Munster decision, the ongoing payments, we just can't do at this point.
I think we're setting ourselves up for a lawsuit if we go forward with that, don't you, Bob?
Well, you know, I don't know about a lawsuit as much as an audit exception and then embarrassment from the State Board of Accounts.
So the council would need to be approached and asked if they would like to invest as well, is what you're saying? Yeah. And that's not, I mean, that's kind of what I expected also, because I know that.
Have you brought that up to the mayor and
Yes,
the
he's
clerk
fully aware.
treasurer?
Yep.
Because
I
they
have
have
not brought it
be-
to the current clerk treasurer because I
Because they're gonna
don't
have
feel
to
like
be
this would
sold
be
on it
something
to
that he would
go
want to take
council.
on, being that he's in this year where he's leaving that office. I have brought it up with, I think the two that are running for office both know about this project, and they've both been sent these proposals. So, and it's, we also had a meeting April 11th, and we invited everyone that would have anything to do with it, everyone in the current council, everyone running for council, and all of you we invited to the meeting. So we have shared the information so that everyone's aware.
Because, to get it into the budget for this next following year can be
And that
addressed
may
by
not
the mayor.
happen. And with this being a long-term project in the building part of it, you know, I understand that this might be something that has to wait until after January 1, you know, until next year. This is just the initial piece of, this is what we have, this is what I think would be great for our city. I mean, Zionsville, Greenfield is working on their website now with this company. Zionsville has one, Fishers has one. Warsaw, which is a city just our size, they have one, and there's several others in Indiana alone that use their program. So it's not a, you know, it's not just a new company that's out there, so that would be good for us too.
I would agree it's a need, just who can pay for it
Yeah,
is,
I'm starting here?
yes, I do agree.
Well, just to clarify, I wasn't trying to support or not support this. I'm just saying that, so, but that price is not unusual
Sure,
at all.
no, not at all.
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other,
There's
that price.
liability for, if you have a website, you don't have to have a website, but if you have one, it's gotta be accessible to various categories of the disabled.
And there's
Just
an app that you can use to run that. I don't know what it's called, I'll have to find out, but there's an app that you can use that, to run on any website to see what kind of errors they have and what, you know, whether or not they're compliant. And that's where I got the 61 errors for our website.
Just to echo what Bob said, at some point in time, the city will have to address this, how it's funded, that's a whole different thing, but, if you've dealt with the Office of Civil Rights, it is not a fun engagement and, very costly.
They get one complaint and then they camp out. You know, it's like a 3 to 6 month or longer, assignment, you know? They just sort of, look for other things while they're there.
Questions for me?
If you do decide to approach the city council, would it be soon or after the election?
Well, you know, that's, I'm not sure. Dan Norris is working with me on this, and he would like to approach the council. So I think I will discuss that with him and to see. I thought he might be here tonight, but I'm not sure why he's not, because he wanted to be a part of this too. But I think that he did, obviously, he supports this whole thing because he's the one that asked me to do the investigation to begin with. So
Sure.
He would like the council to know about it and approve of it as well. I just came to you because I thought it'd be good to approach you with the initial cost.
I guess my thoughts are going forward, I would prefer that the mayor and the city council approach us with the help of the initial investment.
Okay.
Because to me, it is a city website, it will benefit the entire city, so the city should basically pay for it and support it now. if they came to us and said, can you help us with 15,000 in the startup costs? Yeah, that's something that I think would be fine under statute, and I think the RDC could do, but, you know, you're looking at 45,000, and I'm not gonna pay $20,000 to find out that the next city council isn't gonna keep up, because once you get this, you gotta keep it up.
That's right.
And I think that's why
And-
we are.
And that's where the city council and the mayor and them, I think, you know, you should probably go to the May, whatever, 3rd or 1st, whatever day it is where they have their meeting. I would approach them then about it. I'd ask the mayor to be on the docket, and I'd give copies of those to the city councilors and say, this is something that the city is a potential liability for the city. We're not ADA compliant. We could save money because we could consolidate all of this. It would give us better visibility. We'd be able to have payment options and all this built in, a source of revenue generation, like you pointed out. And I would see if they could if they would sign on to it, because if they're not gonna sign on to it, I won't, because I'm not gonna put down 15,000 to have the website go down a year from now.
Right, it definitely has to be a total agreement package. yeah.
Right, so I guess I'm in favor of it, but, the mayor of the city council needs to say, we want this and we're willing to fund it, we're gonna put it in the budget. We'd like the RDC to help with this. I guess we're kind of the cart and they're the horse. And
Yep.
the horse has gotta go back around and get in front of us, so.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
for your time.
Thank you very much for presenting, appreciate it very much. We're ready when you guys are.
Really nice. Really nice.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Lapp with Kevin Parsons and Associates. Thank you for hearing us out again this evening. Go ahead and start with an updated rendering. Got one for everybody, so we want to share.
Nice.
So when we last met on the 21st of March, we talked to you about where we were in the process. One of the things since then that we really kind of dug into a little bit more deeply was costs. And the first thing that started to come back were some concerns with some of the costs of what we had been developing and designing and showing you. And so we started looking at just a real easy shift and adjustment from what we had previously shown you, which was this rendering previously. So real quickly, I'll just kind of, let you know some of the things that were incorporated into that shift. Main thing being the monument base. So what we've done, this previous design was kind of one monolithic monument base, and there were some concerns voiced about people sitting on it, laying on it. How do we keep people off of it? That was kind of one of the things that I think you mentioned. And with the costs coming back a little bit higher than the concerns, what we did was shift this to being they're four individual column bases and pier bases, if you will, or column bases for each one of those. That cost reduction in overall concrete, rebar, forming, cap, and then the pots that we had been showing, we kind of removed the pots and we've shifted that into a full landscape plan, plant material underneath it. The ongoing costs of pots and potential, change outs and seasonal stuff, that was kind of a cost savings that we were looking at there. One of the other things previously, we were showing you an 8-inch cap that was a pretty thick limestone cap. When we got, the first numbers back from a limestone fabricator down in Bloomington or down in that area, the costs were a lot more than what we were expecting. So this cap is a 4-inch cap, and it's a much more, workable and feasible and easily manufacturable and finishable. And, from a freight standpoint, from a shipping standpoint, from working with it in the field cutting it around the columns. And then we also incorporated the capitalized B's and G into the signage.
I spotted that first.
And honestly, I don't think it really,
Didn't save a dime, but
Didn't save a dime, didn't cost any more. But it, you know, honestly, I think it is it looks great, and I think that it looks like it belongs there, so I don't think it was a problem. The updated rendering obviously includes all the plant material. This is the current design of the plantings that we've got shown in our design package. Light fixtures that are mounted on the sides of these that are gonna be the uplights. And those have been incorporated to be fully color controllable, independent color lighting, so that it would be something they can go out, change it to an orange color or a pink color or a red color, Christmas, whatever, you know, football nights and whatnot. So that's pretty much the overview of the design change that has occurred since we last met with you. And I think all of these things, as far as cost, were, you know, the reason for it. We were looking at ways to kind of reduce the overall costs, because we were starting to see some of those numbers come back. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get every number back that we wanted to get in the last close to 30 days, one of which was Signcraft. We've worked with them in the past, and they've, you know, I've asked for them to give us some preliminary pricing on the actual individual letters and then the logo piece that would get installed up there. And if you remember, we have these proposed to be on both sides of the sign, so there'd be 4 of them, 4 sets of them. So it's another big price component and another piece to it that I think is gonna be somewhat expensive, and I was hoping that they would get us something before now.
When would you expect those numbers to be available,
I mean,
realistically?
I honestly, I'm to the point of needing to either find somebody else that can get us a price. We'd worked with Signcraft in the past. I've utilized numbers that, from Plainfield, when we worked on a project out there that was very similar, same number of Plainfield and Beech Grove, same number of letters, same type of letter. Theirs was a little bit, it was like facelit, backlit, so it had a little different component to it. But it was still a channelized box letter, still had logo. And so I've been utilizing those numbers to try and keep things in check. But I really just kind of wanted them to say, you know, this is what it would cost to manufacture it.
We are at the point where we're gonna be calling them every day that we get some answer,
And
even if he does change.
yeah, I mean, I've several emails.
Sounds like your hands are tied at this point, Kevin.
I mean, there are other vendors out
We
there.
have to call every day now too, so.
Yeah, there are other vendors out there. We just, you know, and I have no problem going to somebody else. It's just we've worked with them. Signcraft is a big company.
I've been in the same boat myself in business. You have a preferred vendor, and sometimes when they drag their feet, it kind of handicaps you in front of your customer.
I mean, their initial reaction was, yeah, absolutely, we want to help you. And then every time I followed up, I got nothing, and every phone call I left and every voicemail, nothing. And so I'm a little perplexed by it.
Understood.
One of the other things that we've done since this last meeting was our electrical engineer has designed everything out and provided us some guidance on their costs. And that was another thing that came back and started to, you know, elevate our concerns. They recently worked on a project for IUPUI, Gateway Monuments, and utilizing some of the exact same fixtures. He had provided estimates for, you know, similarly estimates, and then got real-life construction costs back. And those numbers were coming in a lot higher than what he was expecting. So we did start to break things down and get a little bit more detailed in our budget. You know, I think before we were showing you 5 or 6 line items. Now we've got about 20 different things that are all budgeted and line items out. And so we're starting to reel in those numbers a little bit better. So, let's see, we've got a couple of copies of the kind of 100% review set that we said we would have ready for you to have tonight. We've got 2 sets of that. We've also got the updated, you know, cost opinion that we've prepared. Now, we would advise you that these are still review copies. These are preliminary numbers. We've got the public. If they were to fall into the hands of contractors and whoever and whatnot, that could be a concern. So we've kind of reviewed a lot of the budgetary items and things that we've reacted to and responded to. The cost estimate is showing many more additional items, or it's broken up into a little bit more detail, I guess I would describe it as, incorporating everything from the plantings that we are showing in our packages now. And then one of the other things to keep in mind is that when we initially gave a design to Bomar to try and get a budgetary number from them, it was something that was very conceptual in form. And so their preliminary pricing and their information that they provided us was based off of our very early concept drawings. Now we've got a lot more detailed design, and perhaps their numbers could get a little sharper with another, round of looking at the estimate. One of the other components to the lighting, our lighting engineer did meet with IPL on site and talk to them about where and how the lighting would get installed. IPL would be happy to go ahead and drop a couple of new poles out near the interchange. Unfortunately, they're going to be out of NDOT's right of way, so it would be north and south of the exit ramp, which would then require us to bore under the ramp into the triangle to the service points to then be able to provide the electricity and power for these monuments. So that was, we've got service pedestals, we've got boring costs, we've got some other additional things that are shown on that cost estimate.
Tell them it's two separate pedestals too. not
Right.
just- We can't link the two together according to our law.
So there'd be two different service points, two different power points, two different poles. The pole costs and everything would be on IPL, but then from the pole to the service cabinets would be part of the construction costs. And as far as what we were showing before, as far as a lighting number, in comparison, I think adding up, not inclusive of the light or of the monument signage, if you will, that is still a light component, but it's a signage separate line item. Everything that we're showing for the lighting is now totaling around $100,000 for the two different fixtures, so about 50 grand a piece. So that is a dramatic increase over the cost estimates that we've been showing you before. So as far as the package of drawings that we've presented tonight, that includes all the electrical design, all of our design and fabrication, landscape plantings, grading, maintenance of traffic, erosion control, and pretty much the inclusive package. Ready for review and comments. Do you have any questions?
So it looks like the, excuse me, so it looks like the signage went from like 375 down to 354. But then you add in the plantings, service enclosures, boring, and all that stuff. All of a sudden, we were looking at estimated total last month of 375, and people kind of flipped out, and now we're looking at an estimated total of 445. I can't even hear people breathing up here, so, I mean,
I know.
you know what I'm saying, that's, we went from 376 to 445, that's like another, what, $70,000 almost, in just 1 month. I mean, it's scary if you guys come back in May what this thing may end up being.
Everything that we had proposed or presented was conceptual, all the cost
Well,
estimating.
I understand that,
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's amazing how quickly the cost just, it's like, wow. Do you wanna see that, Ed?
I don't need a heart attack.
Anybody else?
He's got enough health issues already.
One thing you guys do this every day, but I'm hearing among other superintendents, construction costs are going up across the board because there's such a shortage of skilled laborers. They can't get to jobs, so a lot of companies are not even bidding on jobs.
Absolutely. And that
Because they don't
is,
have the manpower to do it, so therefore they can ask for a premium price from different vendors, so.
that is,
That's unfortunately what's happening, and
Yeah.
what we've been told even by other contractors, that
Yeah,
instead of getting 5 bids, they're getting 2.
right.
And they're only doing it just in case they win, they're putting it at high,
right.
because they're too busy for it.
They're too busy to really do an in-depth estimate, so they're just estimating
And
high.
it's not seasonal, it's actually just our economy that's causing that.
Yeah.
It's not seasonal. Like normally it's a seasonal.
I don't know what to say. As much as I like the idea of putting these signs, I just don't think we as an RDC have that kind of money that we can spend. I mean, I know we have it. I'm not comfortable spending that much money out of what we've,
Almost $500,000
yeah.
for a portal to Beech Grove.
That's quickly, I mean, when they were coming back at around 75,000 apiece initially, when we talked about this last fall, I thought, well, yeah, 225,000, we could do that, but you're right, $500,000, it's pretty, I don't know, it's pretty tough to justify that, I guess,
I
at this point.
Yeah. That's
Now, if things change, and, you know, I mean, we've got the initial work, but I guess I'd like other people, I'm not gonna make a $500,000 decision on a sign.
I think what concerns me, and Kathy and I have discussed this, and it's almost ancillary to this. We have some neighborhood issues in Beech Grove that need to be addressed. And we can put up monuments and portals to attract people to Beech Grove. And once we get them here, what do they see? Do they see semis in driveways? Do they see dump trucks parked at the curb in neighborhoods? Do they go down streets that are drag strips for motorcycles and trucks with souped-up sound systems? I don't know that I want to attract people until we get those problems solved, especially at a cost of this nature. I mean, we've talked about this
Yeah,
repeatedly.
I'm not opposed to having signs, I'm just opposed to $500,000.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what a simple sign lighted would do.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kathy. I just can't, given the economics and the town, I just,
That's what I wanted to say. I almost responded.
you know, we're building signs that will cost more than 98% of the housing in Beech Grove. And I just, you know what I'm saying? I just can't tell somebody in a $50,000 home that, you know, we took their tax money and spent it on a $500,000 sign. You know,
It's a tough sell.
yeah, it's tough for me.
Something that I was going to respond to the email with the group. Fortunately, my free time is few and far between right now. But what would this look like without the side arms, if you will? Just the main structure.
The center part.
Honestly, I mean, hearing you guys talk and other things, I mean, we can sit there and meet with contractors. We can talk to Bomar and ask them, you know, do you have suggestions? What do you think? Or tell us how we can reduce the costs. I mean, that's something that, you know, that we can do. You know, earlier today, sitting there thinking about, well, where are some ways that we can cut money out of this thing? You know, if we take and it's an approach from just the interstate side, and you don't have double-sided signage, you don't light it from both sides. I mean, I'm looking at all these different ways to try and figure out a way to cut the numbers down, and without sacrificing the overall design. I mean, if we shorten it by 3 feet, does it make, you know, that much of a difference from a manufacturing fabrication standpoint, cost of steel, all the other things? And I can't answer those questions. I mean, I can talk to the people at Bomar and see if they feel like those kinds of things are really gonna save $70,000, $80,000 worth of cost. And, you know, between lighting, between, you know, the masonry, and we can look at other products, we can look at other things if you want us to. I mean, as far as the design of the package, you know, that to what we've got is complete, we can start to work back, or we can have a contractor look at it. But if overall the cost of spending X amount is just too much.
My question, guys, is what is a number that we would have said, like if it came back at 3 1/4, would we have said okay? Or
I
no?
wouldn't. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
would have.
I'm not sure
or-
what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
'Cause I mean, I'm just saying, I just, the plantings alone were $57,000.
Could buy a house for that.
And I don't see them being able to, that's what I'm saying, I don't wanna waste their time and ours going forward unless we can give them a number and say, we have to get, $300,000 is the top we'll go. What do we get for 300,000? But if we're not willing to do that, we're not gonna get what to me would be pleasing to the eye and stand out.
Yeah.
Like that right there, if you got off the interstate, you'd be like, wow, that's something that grabs your eye. And, I don't wanna do I don't wanna cheapen it down so much to where it kind of reinforces a stereotype.
Exactly.
right? So,
There's a trade-off
Well-
there.
right, I'd rather do nothing
Right.
than to do something kind of,
Another option at this stage is doing alternates and saying, we're gonna take the planting or the triangles and removing that from the bid pack, and it's an add alternate. So if pricing comes back and it's favorable, you can add
even
it
we
back.
take off the 57,000, we're still at 380.
Right.
Well, I think to answer Bear's question on taking the wings off would probably not ruin the actual monument itself. It would honestly take
But the wings
off.
give it balance, is the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And if you
But,
take
I
it
mean,
off, it looks like
stays
it.
on theme with what you got downtown.
Well, yeah, and I always thought
But it
those looked
loses-
weird.
It loses the relationship with the Amtrak plant, the railroad, because the wings were the sheds.
Yeah, I mean, your design, like I said, when we saw it initially, we loved it, and I still like it. I
I
just
do
don't
too.
think, I just don't know if I can justify affording it at this point.
Can I throw just a?
You can always throw something in.
Well, we just landed a large sponsorship for the school corporation of $1.2 million over the next 10 years. Maybe, and this is by a local fiscal institution, I'd be glad to talk to that person and see if they'd be interested in becoming a corporate sponsor on something like this. That's just food for thought. I mean, it's in a,
Oh, I have no problem. I talked about selling the naming rights to City Hall. I mean, seriously, I would sell the naming rights on your school buses.
well, right, we can't legally, we tried
Arches
that.
I know that, but I'm just saying, if somebody wanted to put,
Lucas
the bar-
City Hall.
yeah, well, or you know what, the trash trucks driving around, if you had a Hardee's trash truck or a McDonald's or a AT&T
That would make
truck.
sense. They
McDonald's
fill it with most of their
trash.
stuff anyway, don't
I'm
they?
just saying, I have no problem with the idea of corporate sponsorship. I think that's a great idea.
In all seriousness, Pat Miller, our former wonderful state senator, tried to do that and couldn't get it passed. We talked about how great that would be to have sponsorships, but, the Indiana Pacers are going to sponsors on their uniforms, so. and,
Well, they all are.
So, but I'll check with the person.
I think that'd be
on
a
that,
good
Just
idea.
as a FYI and show the design, and who knows? I mean, their response, we switched our banking over to them. And, that's a lot of money over 10 years for a small school district all this to bring in, and we're gonna use that on facilities. That's the whole concept we're doing, so we feel pleased with that. It's not the car dealership I'm still working on. But if anybody out
That was
there,
my
maybe
guess.
over just,
Are you saving that for us, the car dealership? That's
well,
the one
I
in the
don't know.
back pocket,
I'm still
Paul?
working on that car dealership. I know, well, I've been trying that for 3 or 4 years. I'm not giving up until they flat tell me no, but we have a local banking institution, I'll tell you, it's Teachers Credit Union. And they've come on board and we put our banking with them, and we're talking $1.2 million over 10 years. That's gonna really help upgrade some facilities here in the next couple of years for us. So I'll talk to that rep and, just have a discussion. It'd be nice to have a little thing, down below, sponsored by XYZ. It wouldn't take away from those beautiful plantings. So,
And
you
you
never
have
know.
a shelf-ready project.
Yeah, I'll take this design.
Well,
and-
what
Try to buy
are,
'em.
so what are we doing going forward? What is our next steps? Do we just hold here? I mean, I'm still very new at this.
I think the next step is for us as a group to decide if we're going to do this, what's our maximum budget we can afford to spend? What are we comfortable spending, if anything?
Well, you needed to get some numbers too, did you not?
You need numbers from
Yeah.
us.
No,
Well,
from
Well,
another,
and
Oh.
from other vendors or
Yeah.
from other
Sure.
fabricators, we can start to float it out there and just get some more, tightened pencil numbers. But again, it goes back to the world of the construction industry that we live in right now, which
Right.
is a general contractor with all these subs underneath them will mark everything up, and then you know, Bomar may say it's X, but then the contractor with Bomar says it's X plus 25% or something.
I mean, because I guess my thing is if you took out the plantings, it would just, it would look like an abandoned building right off
Yes,
the highway.
it would.
So,
Right.
you see what I mean? So it's all.
Well, the
Two
triangles,
opposing triangles, but you could take out.
you could take out
They
the
could be implemented
additionals,
later.
right.
When, you know,
And that would, yeah, that would knock down
it
some.
wouldn't impact us too much.
And unfortunately,
Unfortunately, price-wise, they weren't separated. on
right,
this end,
and that was something that I mean, I can
That's fine.
revise that
No, I
number.
mean, like I say, I think everybody's got a little, I mean, and that just may be the world we live in, because I talked to the mayor earlier about this, and I think with these two, we don't necessarily, because remember we talked about the big wrought iron across the high, I don't think we necessarily would need that with these.
Oh,
Because remember, the whole project was gonna be like 2.2 million initially, and so part of me thinks, well, you know, if we just did these, we wouldn't be spending 2.2, we'd be spending 450, but I would still like you guys to see if we can't get this price down a little bit. I guess it's initial sticker shock, but
I don't think it's a
Absolutely.
little bit, I think it's get it down a lot.
Well, I'll just make a comment. I know Jim Kaufman made a wonderful presentation to us last week. You know, I think putting more money in the streets and the storefronts, when you're talking that much money, would have a huge impact.
Right.
It was kind of nice driving down tonight. We have some new local establishments. People are in them on both sides of the road. We have 2 more that are about to open. You know, I met with my board members individually over some future projects. I told them 3 years from now, Beech Grove's gonna look a lot different. I really believe. You know, I think there's gonna be a lot of renovations of houses and businesses, and the more money we can invest in that, I think we're gonna get a lot of, like you said, Ron, we got a lot of things in the city to do, and this is a lot of money for that. But like I said, I will go out and talk to a couple sponsors that, you know, we had 2 or 3 people that didn't get that, and I can go talk to them. Dr. Keeley and I can present this, say,
would
here's a
that
great
be a
opportunity.
problem having a corporate sponsor on the thing with NDOT? They wouldn't care, right?
I don't
You know,
think
now
so.
that you mention that, I'm not sure. They allow, where there's maintenance or sponsorships, where, you know, my company's maintaining this,
Right.
they do allow that. On a big sign,
But I'm imagining we'd do something up front, you know, sponsorship by XYZ for maintaining it. I mean, we could probably play with the
I mean,
word
if it were all
usage on that.
part of the same, this median is adopted by
Yeah, we
sponsor,
see those. on-
and then it's the entire median, then I,
Yeah, because they just don't allow corporate signs at all, so you have to be involved with the
Right.
municipality.
I'll make a couple, we'll make a couple phone calls.
So
if
I'd
that's
say we
okay.
table this and maybe look at it next month, we get the rest of the information, and then we make a decision
I
going forward.
think that's a good idea.
I agree.
Investigate ways to cut the cost.
take your time.
Well, thank you, I appreciate you guys' time.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry it's such a shock to you, because it was for us.
It was too.
We've had other schools that-
We don't have a choice. We can't afford that.
No, I don't think so at this point.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last thing I have is Mayor Buckley he's always here, he's a fixture, but he could not make it tonight as he had, previous commitments. So he sent me a little note, on what the city update for us. The medical building across the street from where St. Francis used to stand, it has been sold, but not much is happening, so it sounds like they're still trying to figure out what they wanna do that. On May 10th at 10 a.m. in my office, I have a meeting concerning the trailhead on the St. Francis property. I ask that one RDC member attend so you can be in the loop on this project. Would someone like to attend that meeting?
I wish.
What
that-
day's the 10th?
Work all.
Oh, I knew you were gonna ask that, I should
At
have.
what time?
The 10th would be a
Then-
Friday.
The 10th at 10 a.m. So it's 10, at 10, 19. A lot of tens there. So yeah, Friday, the May 10th at 10 a.m.
Well,
I will go if nobody wants to go, but I always like to see if some,
Kathy and I were already here, so wouldn't make any difference.
you wanna go then, Ed?
sure he will.
Okay,
Kathy volunteers, Ed, I second.
Well, I take off on Friday.
Wait
so Ed,
How did I get that?
well, put it in your calendar, Ed.
You're gonna
May
be well
10th.
that day?
May 10th at 10, you've got that. The Okra grant is moving forward. We should be in a position to apply for funding in early June. The Greenway continues. The mayor, because I did ask, because we wanted to see if we could afford all this, and we don't have a lot left on. I think we have like 140,000 left for next year, and then like we have to put 100,000 down, but that gets refunded to us when the project's complete in October. It's kind of like an upfront, so that's no big deal. And then the other thing he'd mentioned is, you know, some of us have met concerning the CSX property, which is north of Amtrak. They're still working on that. The mayor said that we'll hopefully hear something soon, but that's still in a state of limbo. And, you know, it's gonna be a pretty big capital project for the city. If this goes through, it's gonna help the schools, it's gonna help the city, it's gonna help a lot of people. So, you know, let's keep our fingers crossed that that does come to fruition. You know. and-
Considerable tax revenue from that as well, I'm
Yes.
sure, long-term.
Yeah, so, that's about all the mayor had, and, the other thing I saw is, Kathy had worked, and she has done a great job as usual on the Beech Grove grant/loan application, program application, excuse me.
I would love to take credit for that, but that was sent to us from the Speedway RDC.
Well, you should take credit for it, because you're the only one that went and got it and has put the effort into getting it. So again, I will give Kathy 100% credit on doing this.
Yes.
I looked at it online, and now that I see it in my hand, I think it's great. I don't know, did you see it, Bob?
Yes, I got a copy of it.
Are you okay with it?
Make 2 copies for Dan.
I think it's similar to the one that we got from Greenwood a few years ago.
So I would guess from now on, I guess my opinion is from now on, like when Angel or someone comes here and wants money, we have them fill out one of these. And
We
I
had a
think
nice
start-
website, we could put it on there.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Actually, it could still go on the website now. They could print it off.
Fillable PDF or something.
yeah.
Yeah, be in a PDF and they could print it
Well, I
off.
think-
I mean, I'd be happy to mail it, but people don't even know that we have it for them to fill out.
You may want to decide whether you want to apply this to other units of city government or just private parties coming to ask for money, because I think that's probably the intent.
I think it would be private parties.
I think that's what Speedway,
Yeah.
they do a lot more businesses. I know restaurants and, I mean, he discussed some of the businesses. I mean, we've never been approached like that, but that's why that's so detailed like that. So, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, like I said, I think we should put it as a PDF up there.
Well, if I can get it on there,
Good idea.
So,
it should be on there.
did we have anything else we needed to discuss? We covered the internet, we covered the signage, and I guess we'll let them finish out for May and try to get us a final cost. And we've got the drawings and stuff, we can always put them in the vault, kind of like they did with the Greenway, and maybe in 4 or 5 years, if they want, somebody can build it or not do anything with it. I mean, I still thought it was a good idea, but I thought it was a good idea when we were talking $75,000 a sign.
Those are in my original minutes. It was anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000 per sign. That's in my original
Yeah.
minutes. And then all of a sudden, we're,
Well, and that's
It
the
just-
problem, and I guess my feeling is, I'm not so sure it's not over-engineered. And again, that's what you get into when you get into government, is you get so many regulations and so much this and that, it's gotta be this, it's gotta be that, it's gotta meet this, and then you're tiring in with the highway, so you gotta meet their regulations, you gotta meet, you know, DOT, NDOT, and, you know, it just seems like to me that anybody who could make money off of this got their name on this thing, 'cause there's no way that this much steel and limestone should cost $450,000. I'm not blaming Kevin and them, I'm just saying, it's just the nature of the bidding process.
$100,000 alone was Power and Light
Yeah,
for running the cables. I mean, $100,000 just to have something lighted. I could go for a much simpler sign, but I would want it lighted. Well, we already know we're talking $100,000 to run the cables.
yeah.
So even the simple sign that Ed and I talked about today,
I would have to go with solar lighting.
their own business.
But those little things in the ground that
Then
catch
we'd
the
probably
sunlight
have
during
to
the
pay
day.
for the sun.
Solar
I don't know.
lights.
So I guess we'll
We
just,
have to get a license to do that.
we'll just let them come, hopefully with final numbers in May, and then I would probably ask them just to stop then,
Well, the-
I'm thinking.
I mean, they can come back, but they can't reduce us enough for where we're gonna be comfortable.
There's no
I
way.
think
And
we're
still have
wasting their
anything
time.
decent that you're gonna be
Yeah.
proud
Well,
of,
that's what I'm
just
saying.
when people see it, you know?
I refuse to do something half-baked.
Right.
You know, not to use a bad word, because, I mean, it's just, it makes no sense to, you know, and that's
I
what.
agree.
We don't wanna cheapen the brand, but we don't have unlimited resources to do the deluxe package.
Well, and again, going back to CSX, whatever company's buying them, we still don't know if they're going to approach the RDC and say, hey, you know, you're making,
I
This is-
suspect it's possible that they might, but you do at least know this company's got to move someplace, because of
right, and I would
Right.
be thrilled if they said, we're fine, you know, we
I think
don't
given-
need anything from the RDC, that would be wonderful news, but we can't count on
Well,
that.
given what the nature of their business is and what they want, where they, you know, it's a great
It's
property for
perfect
them, and it's gonna
for them.
definitely work for them.
and they have to move.
Yeah,
And they have to move to someplace where there's railroad.
Right,
Right, I mean, it's a perfect location.
and, you know, from what I've heard they're asking is, to me, not unreasonable. Now, again, I don't believe government should give money to any private company. You know, I struggled with giving money for the Okra grant because it's not necessarily fair. And, you know, I was livid when we gave $800 million to the Pacers. You know, and what people don't realize is, like, right now, our city's in a structural deficit because they take money from the sewer fund to cover the general fund. And that's about 1.5 million a year that's taken out of that fund. And, you know, so our sewer bills aren't going to pay for our sewers, it's going to pay for clerks and admin people and this and that. And, you know, I wonder if Beech Grove hadn't wasted all the money on Digital City and some of these other projects, and they didn't have an RDC, instead of having a $1.5 million structural deficit, it might only be 800,000, which would be closer or reasonable. But, you know, it's the nature of what it is. So if this company comes and they need $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, as much as it pains me, that's just how the game's played, you know, and it's not fair. And, you know, what it does is it really gives capitalism a bad name, because it's basically the transfer of wealth from average folks to rich folks. And that's why I dislike this whole practice that government does, but it's the nature of the beast, and until somebody wises up and fixes it, it is what it is. So saving the $400,000 on the sign and putting it in if they need it is probably the smarter move for our community.
in the long run, I think so.
Yeah.
There's still some fairly complex title issues because of the way the railroads have went out of business, went bankruptcy, merged, and Tammy Ortman in our office, who's one of the top real estate lawyers in the state, she's been exploring those issues, and she reached out to CSX today and was waiting for a response from them because apparently the buyer hasn't been able to figure it out totally.
Oh, that's not shocking.
You know. So, I mean, you can imagine the line of ownership and mergers, Penn Central and
Well, it was the New York Central
New
originally.
York Central.
Yeah, Pennsylvania Railroad and New York Central,
Yeah,
Penn Central.
all of that. And,
You had mergers, you had bankruptcies, then you had the government, national, you know, take Amtrak, which took over those shops. and-
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and you know, who knows where, because I mean, if you look north of Amtrak, to me, they had a bunch of rail storage lines in there, they've ripped all that trackage out. And I mean, if I were to guess, there's probably 20 acres of unused land there. And you know, that's the other bad thing about Amtrak is, you know, I'd say that facility is only probably about 30 to 35% capacity. There's a lot of wasted space, so to speak, and underutilization. So, I mean, like I said, I hope this comes, but I think we probably ought to focus our resources and thoughts on getting that in. Or again, if we get that in, that's in a TIF district.
Right.
Yes,
They-
exactly.
they had
That's why,
In a couple of years, they had a couple $100,000. The sign doesn't seem so bad then.
No, doesn't.
only by then it'll be $1 million.
Yes.
And we'll get them to sponsor the sign.
Yeah.
There you go.
And you can always.
And you
put
know
it
what,
out-
that would be a company that very well might do it.
That could be a one-time investment for them.
So,
Well, I would have
You can
said,
always put it out for bid and reject all bids if they, get a real price, that's the only way to get a real price. I don't know if they wanna do the work to get to that point if they don't know that you're gonna proceed.
right.
well, at this point, I would say we're probably a hard no on proceeding. I mean, like I say, we've authorized a certain amount and paid a certain amount. I'd like to get the final numbers to know exactly where we are. And I'll also give them another 4 weeks to see what they could cut out of it. But I mean, like I say, I was looking at the cost of the plantings and again, who's planting these things?
Well, Ed and I talked about this, I would have suggested a much simpler sign, just welcome to Beech Grove, until I heard the lighting alone would be $100. That's not gonna change,
$100,000.
a simpler sign's not gonna change the cost of the lighting and
That's-
digging under
That's a
the,
sunk cost.
Yeah.
right there.
so that's why
I think the other thing I struggle with is when you get off on the westbound exit of 465, there is a huge cell tower at the front of that triangle. And that was the other thing I worried about. I think I'd asked Kevin about it. And
I
he
think
said-
they mentioned that, didn't they?
And I don't think there was much they could do about it, but that always irritates me because that's an eyesore right in the middle of it. And so that would have been to me another thing that they would have to move it. Yeah, exactly. So there's another $500,000 to move it, but I mean, it sits right in the middle of where the
I
sign
know what you're
would
talking
be.
about.
And so those were things I was worried about, but I think we're acting, again, responsible. And that's what's great about you guys is at the end of the day, we're pretty level-headed and don't run off and spend other people's money like it's ours. Does anybody have anything else? If not, I would ask for a motion I want to thank you all first. It was great discussions tonight, and I think we covered a lot and got a lot to think about. But if nothing else, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make said motion.
Second?
I'll second.
second.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:18 PM. We will see you in May. I don't remember what day, but May will be the last meeting until July. So at that, I wish everybody a good night and thank you.